Hello, wonderful, fabulous 8th graders. We are here to start talking about our digital landscape paintings, and I'm going to show you how to plan today. So, you'll need something to draw with, a reference image of some kind of landscape that you want to create for your project, and the ability to listen and follow directions. So you'll notice I have a few things here. Hi. I have my laptop and I have my paper. I also have a pencil or a pen of some kind, just because we are going to be doing a little bit of hand drawing. This is the way I prefer to start my digital art, is by starting it analog. Now, some of you are going to choose not to do it that way, which is totally fine. However, if you are somebody who is used to drawing by hand first, I would definitely recommend getting a pencil and paper out before you start. Now, the first thing you're going to want to do before we even get to the pencil and paper is find some reference images. When you're finding a reference image, you definitely want to find something that has a background, a middle ground, and a foreground. This image has all three. However, I do think that there's too many things in the foreground for this image to be the most effective choice. This image also has all three layers of space. The middle ground looks very cool on this one, but again, the foreground's a little bit messy and muddled, so I might have to make some specific choices about what I actually want to include in the foreground with this image. I really enjoy how distinctive the layers of space are in this image. For example, the mountains overlap each other really clearly. However, there's nothing in the foreground of this image, so this doesn't qualify as an option for something I should choose for this project. We're going to start off by drawing some little thumbnail sketches of different possible ideas. It's important to have multiple ideas just so you can test a few different things out and make sure that the option you select is your best possible choice. As you can see, I'm referencing different parts of the photo and trying to sketch those layers of space out as simply as I can. It's perfectly acceptable to ignore certain elements of the photo you choose to make things easier on yourself. I'm mainly focusing on the background, the middle ground, and the foreground in a general sense. At this point, I've gone in and looked at all three of my reference photos and made 3 little thumbnail sketches of each one. I did choose to include some elements, I deleted some other elements, I added some things that weren't even in the photos to a few of them, and I'm going to be choosing my favorite option, which is that one right there. I kind of decided that I liked those 2 options on the right a little bit more than the option in the upper left, just because that upper left area is so full of foreground. It's not the best choice. Now it's time to start a rough draft of the idea I want to create. I started by drawing it a little bit larger on my page, and I'm dividing the space up into thirds so you can see I'm trying to follow that rule of thirds rule that we learned back in our photography unit. I'm sketching pretty lightly here. I'm trying to make sure I have my background established, which is the sky, as well as my middle ground mountain areas. I'm also going to be sketching a tree or 2 instead of the about 20 or 30 you see on the image on my screen. Like I said, it's important that you make some specific choices. You don't have to draw every little tree or every little detail that you see in your image. Just get the general sense of the composition down on your page. I'm also going to be adding color to my rough draft as well. This is important because we will be using color for this project, so it's important that we think about it and plan it out ahead of time before we start creating it digitally. Now, I'm looking at my different options here. I'm noticing there are a lot of blues, there's a little bit of green, there's a little bit of brown. I'm just choosing to go with a couple of simple colors instead of a lot of color because I want to make sure that my composition feels unified at the finish. At the top of your sky, try to make sure your color is a little bit darker, and then as you move down closer towards the ground, make sure it's a little bit lighter. We'll be using a gradient option here, but for now with colored pencils, that means I'm pressing very hard at the top of the page, and as soon as I get closer to those mountains, I'm easing up on my pressure and just filling in very lightly. As I start working on the mountains, I want to make sure the ones that are the farthest away are the lightest in color. These mountains that are farther away should blend in with the sky. This is something that is going to be pretty true for almost any landscape you choose. The objects that are farthest away should stay a little bit on the lighter side or closer to the sky's color. As you move down the page towards the bottom edge of your drawing, you are going to want to make your colors a little bit darker. It's important to remember that the things that are closest to you will be your darkest things, and the things that are farthest away will be your lightest things. I'm going to begin working on the mountain area in the middle of the middle ground right now, and you can see I'm starting that top edge of the mountain a little bit on the darker side so it stands out just a little bit more from the sky. One cool effect though that I'm trying to create is a little bit of haziness, so that means I'm going to shade lightly as I get towards the bottom edge of that mountain. So dark towards the top, and that haziness effect is created by keeping it light towards the bottom edge of the mountain. As I move down in space, I'm getting gradually darker and I'm heavier with my colored pencil. I'm also layering some colors on top of each other. I'm using a little bit of brown to try to make more of a grayish color. You can also see I'm just coloring right on top of my tree for right now. Go ahead and fill in any areas that have kind of gone unnoticed or unused by you, and then also feel free to add a little bit of attention to detail to some things in the foreground, like my trees. Once you get to about this point, you can go ahead and finish your planning for the time being. This is what my finished spread looks like, so my 3 thumbnails and my rough draft in color. This is what I'm expecting from you guys as well, so make sure you take some time and create a really thoughtful plan.